BBC to probe Donald Trump's family. That's the headline. BBC lawyers are moving to subpoena Don Jr., Ivanka, Jared Kushner, and perhaps other Trump family members in connection with Donald Trump's $10 billion lawsuit against the BBC for a documentary that aired in the UK on Panorama, which really didn't air in the United States. Donald Trump says he was defamed by the way this documentary was edited to make it seem like Donald Trump was involved in the January 6th insurrection. And Trump's like, that defamed me, $10 billion. And BBC's like, okay, let me have your financial records. So we'll see the $10 billion and we're going to litigate this case and show your involvement in the January 6th insurrection as alleged in this lawsuit. So that's what our plan is. And so we're going to pursue discovery. And then Donald Trump's like, I don't want to do discovery. I'm not going to produce the records. And BBC's like, okay, well, we're going to file motions to compel you to produce the records. And then the motion to compel was granted by the magistrate judge. Donald Trump was ordered to produce records. And then he was like to a federal judge he appointed back in 2019 from the Southern District of Florida, who oversees the magistrate judge. Judge, I want to amend my complaint. Can I change it, Judge? Can I change it? Pretty please, pretty please. And the Trump appointed judge like, all right, we'll let you change it, even though you blew all the deadlines. And Trump's like, thank you, thank you. I want to say that my reputation was harmed $10 billion, not my businesses were harmed $10 billion. And the federal judge is like, okay, Donald, you can do it. And Donald's like, yay, even though this would never happen in any other federal case. So the loser amends his stupid $10 billion lawsuit. And BBC's like, guess what? We're litigating this case. Okay. And so because you're saying we defamed you about January 6th, guess who was also involved or who were witnesses or who were there? The same way they were subpoenaed by the J6 committee, Ivanka and Jared Kushner and Don Jr. and Kimberly Guilfoyle and others. Let's take their depositions, and they will be major parts of our cases because they also testified before the January 6th committee. You're suing us for $10 billion in the liability phase. We want to show that you were involved in the J6 insurrection and that you turned a blind eye, and that even if our editing may be not elegant, there's no maliciousness in what our reporting was because we have, as many people have said, you were involved in the J6 insurrection. You've bragged about it. You've pardoned them. You've commuted their sentences. You've created slush funds for the insurrectionists. So you're saying that this defamed you? Like, what the hell are you even talking about? And so the BBC, seeking to probe Trump's family, not just probe Donald Trump. And Trump was scared of BBC, so he edited his complaint. Now Trump's family is getting probed by BBC, and they're saying, okay, we're going to subpoena you. We want your depositions. And so they're all being guarded, I kid you not, by the Secret Service. And because they're not parties, they have to be served by BBC. And so BBC shows up at their door, at their mansions. BBC says, hey, BBC here, Ivanka. BBC here, Jared. BBC, we tried to get Donald. He's scared, BBC. I'm scared of BBC. So Don Jr. And so what are they doing? They have their Secret Service block the process server and say, we're not allowed to accept service. Well, and then so the process server's like, okay, well, then we're going to wait out here. Then the Secret Service is like, nope, you've got to get out of here. So BBC had to then go to federal court and say, guess what, Judge? These losers, Don Jr., Ivanka, Kushner, they're hiding from our process servers, okay? And so we tried to we reached out to the Secret Service regional office and we go, look, we're not trying to harass them and wait outside their homes. Like, will you accept service? Like, we're going to be able to take their deposition at some point. We're not going to go away. So why don't we just make it easy on everybody? Will you accept service for them? They can show up we'll coordinate a time that's mutually beneficial. It's not like you're going to run out the clock and hide from us. You're eventually going to have to sit for a deposition in this case. And the Secret Service said, nope. We have their emails. This is the Secret Service email. May 14, 2026. Good afternoon, Mr. Ralia. Hope this finds you well. I'm the Regional Field Counsel in South Florida with the United States Secret Service, the Office of the Chief Counsel. I'm reaching out regarding your recent communication with our Miami field office concerning subpoenas intended for Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. The United States Secret Service, as an agency of the United States government, is not authorized to accept service of these subpoenas for these individuals, nor can we opine on how you all may be best to facilitate or effectuate service of these subpoenas. And so the BBC says, okay, we'll go to federal court. And they say, hey, judge, we've been sued for $10 billion. Donald Trump refuses to turn over discovery. He's amended his complaint because he was so afraid to produce financial records. And he thinks that's going to be a way to hide from discovery. It's not. We've endeavored to try to resolve issues without seeking the court's assistance. We reached out to Trump's lawyers. We said, how can we facilitate this and make it easy on everybody? And their plan is to hide. Their plan is to use the Secret Service to guard them, to prevent the process servers from getting nearby and hide. That's their game plan, to run away. Sounds like a pattern here, right? The same way Donald Trump hides on catering containers, the same way Donald Trump wants to build bunkers for himself. These people hide. They're scared. They're cowards. Just show up for the deposition or tell Danny that you don't sue for $10 billion. That's an easy one. You sue for $10 billion, you sue for $1 million, you sue for $500,000, and you make certain allegations. The other side is often going to fight back. They're not just going to take it. They're not just going to go, oh, okay, oh, I'm going to write you a check there, Donald. No, especially if they're BBC, British Broadcasting Company, and they don't bend the knee like some of these sycophantic, despicable corporate news here in the United States, which, God bless them. It's why the MeidasTouch network grew, because they became so pathetic and something had to fill the void and do actual real journalism. But that's what they're all doing. They're hiding. They hide. And it's not like a winning strategy. Trump hides from the lawsuit that he filed. Dude, if you thought you had a great case, wouldn't you want turn over the documents? You'd want to rush to a trial. When I was a plaintiff's lawyer, you'd want to rack 12. You want a jury. You want your case. You want to move it along. Oftentimes, it's the defendant that delays because they want to drag it along as much as possible. You know, here you have the defendants like, let's go, let's get this. And Trump, the person who sued for $10 billion, is like, nah. And this is a pattern with this guy, man. It's like the catastrophic war in Iran, whatever, Operation Epic Fury, we own the Strait of Hormuz. It's like, man, you're just a loser at the end of the day. You start something and then you're like, yeah, whatever. I'm just going to delay it indefinite. I'm semi-negotiating. We'll see what happens. And BBC's like, nah. And let me bring in Harry Litman from the Talking Feds podcast and Substack and YouTube. Harry, it's interesting. Some of the outlets that are covering this they're like BBC is playing hardball. I'm like, they're not even playing. They're doing what you would do in a litigation. Like, it shouldn't be a shock that someone who gets sued for millions of dollars, in this case, billions of dollars, is going to say, you know what? I'm going to defend myself. And I'm going to do what a defendant would normally do in a case where they think that they are not in the wrong. Harry, break it all down.
Yeah, look, remember what Trump sued for is basically and it's true, a kind of juxtaposition of things of clips that didn't occur right next to each other to make it appear that he was enthusiastically, getting his charges to storm the Capitol. Well, guess what? If it turns out that is what was in his mind anyway, where's the harm to reputation? So they're playing. I agree with you. Lawyers play hardball, and BBC is doing what lawyers do. It's not Marquis of Queensberry, but we've seen Trump again and again. You could call it cowardly. What it really is besides cowardly, is he doesn't sue for the reasons that other people sue for. He just wants to browbeat or bully or cow. And you've documented this, Ben, better than anyone, when the time comes to do what you have to do, if you want to really ask a jury, a judge, a legal system to give you billions of dollars, you got to be prepared to sit in the chair and raise your right hand. And he is the worst client and probably the worst opponent ever. And so it's at that juncture in a lawsuit that he'll often fold his tent. And he'll also resist it. And part of the things I'll do to resist, I'm the president, blah, blah, blah. Jared Kushner's not the president. Ivanka Trump's not the president. Don Jr.'s not the president. Maybe he wants to be. Oh, let's silence that thought right away. But you know, they don't have the same kind of argument that they can't be bothered. You're right. They have the phalanx of Secret Service and a lot of strong arms around them. But that's why the motion that you were talking about, you know, it's the due process clause actually is what it, governs how much and when you have to put the papers in somebody's hand. And if it's just unreasonable and they're ducking you, you can make an arrangement to serve by mail. That happens a lot. So you're right. Like other reclusive billionaires, they may duck and try to prevent, but the subpoenas will be served. And now we will see, right? What is Trump, who was just looking to bluster and make trouble? There's the arguments, and BBC has from the start said, you know, the splicing we screwed up on, but forget about it. You're telling us that as a result, you suffered $10 billion of damage, and people thinking, what? Oh, that you actually maybe wanted your followers to storm the Capitol. Hey, guess what? We're gonna really interrogate that with people who know it, and they're gonna be uncomfortable in the chair. That is the way that litigation works, and so we'll see if at that point he'll try to, you know, fold his tent. It usually goes until the point where it's really time to raise your right hand. So now, you know, the BBC is saying, oh, and one other point, by the way, you did it, but you said it kind of quickly. Trump sues $10 billion of economic damage. Oh, Judge, I know it's 7 months since I was, it's too late to amend, but let me amend anyway. It's not economic damage, it's reputational damage. Oh, how much is that reputational damage? $10 billion? What a remarkable coincidence. It's the same amount of money his reputation has suffered, not his holdings and the like. So, says the BBC, this is, I think, a little bit more of a stretch. We'll see what the judge does with it. But Don Jr., Ivanka, Jared, they can speak to what his reputation is and can speak to the harm that it may have suffered. They're sort of proxies for him. So look, I'm not saying that it's you know, the gloves are in a way off, but it's very clever because Trump has a lot of stratagems to keep from actually testifying, and when he does, to bob and weave, even though it's unpersuasive. But you know, not so Don, Jared, and Ivanka. And if that day comes soon and the judge greenlights it, and you know, you've been in complex litigation, Ben, and you know, typically you can depose someone. The standard is it likely to turn up relevant evidence, just something that could matter? So it would be unusual to just bar them all together. And you know that we've seen Trump on the hot seat, rarely, and he will often fold before going there. I haven't seen the same situation for Jared, Ivanka, Don Jr., and they are vulnerable, you know, and they're vulnerable either for saying not very nice things about Maximum Leader, that would be, or saying not fully truthful things about Maximum Leader. That's what happens when you have to raise your right hand and promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So, you know, it is a pointed attack. I agree, but it's really smart given how much Trump will try to squirm out of himself being deposed. If this case goes on, he will be also. He's the plaintiff, for Christ's sake. You've got to be. But this is another sort of you know, grenade launched in the same general direction, and we'll see if the three actually ever sit in the chair, or if this is another case in which Trump talks big, files a complaint, and then meekly says, never mind, when it looks as if there'll be consequences to him or people near him.
Yeah, it's the latter. He will drag this out. He will drag it out. And then, he will, I mean, the case eventually gets dismissed. And he will then say, it's interesting because it's in front of this Trump appointed judge, which almost makes it harder for him to do the usual, it was an unfair liberal judge. And so while you have this judge giving him leave to amend, which nobody would ever do in a situation because he blew the deadline, it's hard for him to blame this judge that he appointed when this case gets dismissed. But then what he'll do is he'll file the next one for $10 billion and $10 billion and $10 billion. And ultimately, though, the damage is a systemic one. It's a damage to our system. Yeah. It's a damage to the presidency. It's a damage to our country. And it is, and look, I think I connect this frequently to the war, a war, by the way, I believe we shouldn't have been involved in at all, catastrophic and unlawful war. But also from a tactical perspective, though, foreign countries study this stuff. They study his behavior. And what this is very revealing about, frankly, is a very loser mindset. It's a very loser pathology. It is, I will huff and I will puff. But when you corner me, I will always kind of back down. And if he backs down to BBC or to E. Jean Carroll or to Letitia, you name the person, he'll huff and he'll puff and he'll do whatever. Then I think about, okay, well, when someone resists and stands up to him, he does back down. Now, he'll be relentless. Look at Canada. He's going to continue to try ways to always attack Canada. Look at Greenland. He'll always find and if you're them, Trump's this predator leech. He's this never ending mosquito that keeps, that's his life. But you let the mosquito in, as Venezuela sees, or as these corporations see, he, in pricking you or whatever you want to call it, he injects the Trump virus and you're always sick. You're always sick. Yeah, you may have a temporary, because it's the presidency, like Intel. Your stock may go up Q1, Q2. Yeah, or you may avoid this or that, like the law firms. Ooh, we dodged a bullet there. He's going after these law firms. But in the swing of things, in the arc of history, that's more than one quarter or 2 quarters. What Trump has shown is that Q1, he's a good fraudster. The casinos, Michael Jackson, gold this, gold that. Okay, what about the fourth quarter? What about the next year? What about, it goes bankrupt? Got it. And that's the thing that we need to reflect as adults, Harry. And I know I'm wandering, but
no, you're not. I want to make one final legal point, Ben. Your points are all, you're drawing general lines between how he acts in one area and how he acts in another. No surprise that that's what he does. I do want to say he might have gambled, or he might have been thinking that maybe this judge whom he appointed, young judge, was going to be completely in the tank for him, Eileen Cannon style. The judge did provide, just give him a pass on a 7-month late, really amended complaint. But when he did it, he did say, hey, I'll let you now make this about reputation, but don't think that means that all your holdings are going to be irrelevant. I mean, this is, part of how people are going to have to judge that. You're the one suing for $10 billion. I think this judge has served notice that, you appointed me. Thank you very much, Mr. President, but it doesn't mean you're going to get a total whitewash. The other side that you're suing is going to have a right to certain information, and at least preliminary indications are he's good. This judge will permit it. Won't be exactly in the Eileen Cannon school of litigation with Donald Trump.
Everybody subscribe to Harry Litman's YouTube channel. It's called Talking Fed. Search it, subscribe, tell Harry in the comments, Ben says hello. If you pre-order WTF America by me and my brothers, you could tell Harry, I pre-ordered WTF America. It's coming out October 20th. Or you could just say, hi, Harry, Ben sends you. But it's called Talking Feds. Subscribe. We appreciate you.
I'll tell you what, guys, give me let's have a vote in there too. If you would like Ben to come on down to San Diego for one of our Talking Feds one-on-ones, the last two I think were with Adam Schiff and Josh Shapiro. So that's, Ben's clearly in that category. Put it in there too. Say, bring Ben to San Diego and we'll do our best.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, if you want the full story, how democracy got here and how we take it back, pre-order our new book, WTF America, today. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Let's do this.